Computer. All right, we're starting the meeting on March 8th, 7 o'clock. Essentially, this is for helping some new folks that have approached us on how they get started in astrophotography. We've got a bunch of experts that are going to help do that. Before I get started, I see Kenwar here. He's our star. I just want to say one more time, he did a great job last Sunday. Yeah, those of you who haven't watched the Astro Imaging channel with Kenwar, he did a super job for the MAS.Fits. So I would like to probably start. I asked several people, some of the experts, just so they could start off the conversation with what did they do to get started in astrophotography, and 4 of them are on the group right now. And there's others that are chime in, Rick and I guess Steve. And so what we'll do is I want to start off with Freddie just for a minute, just to show the group what you did, how you got started. It was amazing to me. And then Brent's done a really good presentation. And then Steve and Clay, you can chime in as you see fit. But this is kind of an open meeting. If people have questions, raise your hands, whatever, start talking, we'll answer them, because it's really made for you and not for the people who have done this for a while. So Freddie, can you share your screen? Can you show what you showed me today?
Oh yeah, sure. You want me to share the screen? I have I opened the page there. Let me see if I can do that.
Can you?
Oh yes, here it is. It is my first published astrophotography. It was done with a TASCO telescope. It was a refractor, one of those refractors that have a lens in the middle. It wasn't very good with a TASCO eyepiece, and I put my Nikon camera and took a picture of the Earth shine on that date. It was in December of 2004. The TASCO telescope was, 3 days old, and I had I was lucky enough to get that shot of the moon. That was my first telescope. In fact, it wasn't the first, it was the second, but the first one was so bad. I worked for an airline, famous here in Memphis. And at the time, for my 10-year anniversary, I asked for a telescope. And that thing was a plastic, a tripod that didn't work. And there was a lunar eclipse or something like that. I took pictures, but I didn't keep anything of that. Then I made myself with a webcam, a camera for the telescope. That didn't work. So I started working on the TASCO. And then a friend of mine passed away, and his widow gave me my C8, the same C8 I have now. And after that, well, the C8 was sitting in a balcony. It was wet. It was filled with water. And I fixed it and sent it to Celestron. Celestron fixed it. And then I fixed it had a very good motor. It was a big buyer's drive. And I was able to fix it, but the motors were damaged, and they suddenly would stop. So I decided, okay, I'm gonna take this out of the fork, and I bought a equatorial mount, and that mount didn't have any motor, so I made. There was a group in Yahoo called Roboscope that you will use some mid motors and will adapt them to the scope, and it has been a progress until the day. But I can tell you, you can start with anything, and you can little by little progress on your achievements and your equipment. And it has been fun for me.
Yeah, that's what the message, that when I saw that, I said, you can start from bare bones.
Yes.
To what he's doing.
That TASCO telescope had a small motor that it wasn't calibrated. You had to calibrate it so the object didn't move when you're looking at it. So, and at this time was as 8-second exposure. So I had to hold the camera against the eyepiece for 8 seconds. So again, you don't need specialized equipment to start. You can start with a tripod, a good zoom lens or wide angle lens, and start taking pictures with that. You can calculate what is your longer exposure based on your focal length, and then you can start doing photography just with a tripod and a camera.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it's just amazing how he started with this simple stuff and how he's progressed over the years. It's a step-by-step journey.
Exactly.
The other one I saw some of the work that Brent did. He always has the professional presentations. So maybe Brent, you could step to before, and if somebody's got questions, again, ask and stop us, whatever. But we're just going to get started with some of the things that you ought to be thinking about as you move along. So, Brent, make it so.
All right, I'll share my screen now. Is that coming across?
Yes.
Good.
All right. So kind of echoing what Freddie said, you can really it's here with my journey, and it started in December of 2018. And people started posting pictures on it on Facebook, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool. I wonder if I can do that." So I had a
Okay.
there we go. Recording still going there.
Well, yeah, for some reason I lost the whole thing for a few seconds.
Okay. All right. But yeah, so I couldn't find the comment, but I was like, well, this is kind of cool. Maybe I can figure out other stuff. So I ended up pointing up at Orion's belt and the Orion Nebula. And what you see right now on the screen that's my very first astro shot ever. I kind of got it centered and took about a 1 second exposure with an ISO of 3200 with an old Canon T3i just sitting on a tripod. And after that, I was hooked. I was like, wow, I can actually do this from my own backyard with equipment. And then I spiraled down the rabbit hole.
What lens was that, Brett?
It was just a, like the cheap kind of 75 to 300 millimeter zoom lens that comes with like most camera kits. So if you just buy one, this is probably zoomed in about as far as I could get. If I had to guess, about 300 millimeter shot. But again, just a camera that I had, and like I'm pretty sure that I can replicate this exact same thing with my Android phone. I can take it out on a tripod, zoom in as far as I want, and probably do the same thing right now. So it's a nice little kind of teaser on what can be done. So after that, I was like, okay, I guess I need some real equipment. So I went online, I found a used William optic refractor telescope, and I was like, all right, cool, let's start doing this. So I ended up buying this refractor. There are different types of telescopes. I chose a refractor because I know camera lenses a little bit. It kind of feels and acts like a camera lens. So it wasn't too scary for me to kind of dip my feet into it. And then I also got a Star Adventure mount. So obviously the sky moves, so you can't take a picture of something that's moving. You can for maybe, I don't know, 10 to 15 seconds, depending on what you've got. So I got this little Star Adventure mount so that I could actually move with the sky to start taking longer exposures. And my my little Orion Nebula started getting a little bit more detail here. I could see more, and there's other stuff around it. It's a little bit brighter, and I can take longer pictures of it. So as this continued to go along, I started to say, okay, well, now I need to do even more. So I ended up moving on to a much bigger mount. So about a month into it, I was like, okay, I like this little one, but I want to do some more stuff. So I looked at a bigger, thicker mount, the Skywatcher EQ6R Pro. This one can handle a lot more weight. I can connect it to my computer. It's got go-to because I quickly learned that I am not good at finding stuff in the sky. If I can have the computer do it for me and just go there and then I can take the picture, great. So I wanted a mount like this that I could grow with, and it had a go-to functionality. So
Brett,
that
can I
allowed me to, yeah, go ahead.
ask a question on, don't go back, but on your previous slide, you had a less expensive, like a tracking mount, right?
Right.
Okay, how many seconds could you get? How many seconds exposures do you think you could get with something like that?
At my best, and I didn't get really good at it, I could get a good 30 seconds. But I know if I'd really been able to dial that in, I've seen people do even longer than that. But it was kind of flimsy on the mount that I had, and I would always kind of jostle it, and then I'd lose my polar alignment. It was useful, but my telescope that I had, and then just kind of me not being precise with it, made it a little bit harder to kind of get where I needed to get with it.
Yeah, well, 30 seconds is a lot better than 4 seconds, where you start seeing
Yes.
the stars. Like if you were zoomed in like that, you probably only had like 4 seconds of exposure before the stars starting in the oval. So that's a good starter mount, isn't it?
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but like I said, I fell down the rabbit hole, and I kept saying, okay, I need to get something better. I need to get something better. So I decided to go with this one. I actually saw several YouTube videos about it, and I thought this one would last me a good long time, and I'm still using it today, and I don't foresee ever not using it at this point. But at the same time, I kept looking, and I was using my Canon T3i, and I started saying, well, it's really hard to get signal out of this thing. I could see some things, but there's a lot in the sky that I can't see. So I actually got a used Astro modified T3i from Cloudy Nights, an online forum where you can buy stuff. And that way it had more, I guess some of the filters and things removed, so I could actually see more, get more signal from the sky. So that was a big one, as well as a light pollution filter, because obviously I'm in Collierville now. I was in Olive Branch at the time, and probably around a Bortle 7.8 on the Bortle scale. So there's a lot of light pollution. And then finally, as I started to take pictures, and it may not come across here on the video, but my Pleiades over here, I got all these little squiggle lines on them. And I said, oh, what's that? Am I doing something wrong? And I found out that I need to be doing something called dithering. So basically, that's where the camera moves a tiny bit after each picture, so that way when you combine it all together, it's nice and smooth. These little squiggle lines are called walking noise. So then I found out, okay, well, I need to do some guiding and dithering, so I need a guide scope. So that's the next thing that I ended up getting to help resolve that. So continuing on, I got up better and better with my little refractor, and I decided, you know what, well, you can't really zoom per se when you're taking pictures. You can with like if you're doing visual stuff, but like whatever range you have is what you see. So I decided I want to add on to that. I want to get another refractor that can take even deeper pictures. So I've got a wide field one with my smaller refractor, and then I can go deeper with this one. I got an Explore Scientific refractor to go on my mount. And then that summer, I got a lot of heat noise. It was a very hot summer. I was taking pictures. The camera would get really hot, so my pictures would get really noisy. And eventually I said, you know what, I'm tired of dealing with that. I need a cooled camera. So I ended up grabbing a dedicated Astro cooled camera, a ZWO ASI 071 MC. So this camera will cool, and I typically will cool it to minus 10 degrees when I'm taking pictures. That keeps the noise down. So even if I'm taking it and it's really hot outside, my camera is not going to be overwhelmed by noise from heat. So I've got a nice mount. I've got a couple of refractors. I've got a color camera. Continuing on the path, I'm learning to use different tools. I'm not necessarily talking about those, but you can kind of see the different tools that I'm using at the time. I'm doing focus by visual all throughout here. So you take your little focuser knob, you move it in and out, and I'm trying to see, okay, these stars look pretty good. And December of that year, I found out, oh, there's this thing called a Botnoff mask. That's cool. So I ended up grabbing a couple of those, and that'll create this star pattern. And you can see when you create this pattern, you can see that you're basically in focus. So that was a nice addition there that I should have done probably a lot sooner. Continuing on, so from there, I started to branch out into some additional filters. The next thing I got was an L-enhanced filter. This is a narrow band filter this allowed me to get a lot better signal on my pictures from my light pollution area. It really cuts out a lot of the light pollution and lets me really focus on certain wavelengths of light, so that even though I'm in a Bortle 7-8 zone, I can really start to get a lot of these faint details, and my reds of hydrogen alpha really start popping where they were really dull before. So that was a nice add. And I got a filter slider as well, because I found that I needed to start changing out filters. And I didn't want to, I had to take apart my camera and my telescope every time and then put it back together again every time. So, and this will build up into where I'm eventually going, as you kind of see the story here. In August, I broke the laptop that I've been using, and I figured out, okay, I need something else now. So I looked around for cheap laptops, and then eventually found some things online and figured out, okay, well, I can get a mini PC. So this little mini PC is the one that I got. It's a B-Link brand mini PC, but I can actually connect this. I've got this up next to my telescope now, so I don't have to have all these wires hanging off my mount and kind of running to this laptop. I can have it all right up there on top of my telescope, and it makes things a lot easier to kind of control and deal with. So a little bit of an equipment change there as we went along. After that, I continued to get a little bit better and better. I learned more and better at processing this. I've been using Photoshop for a long time, and that's what I mainly used. But about this time, I got a better guide scope. I got a better guide camera. I figured out, okay, if I'm leaving this thing out overnight, I've got dew that starts to form on the camera. So I need a way to kill that dew. I ended up buying a Pegasus power box, which gives me power now up on the mount. There's a little box up here. So I've got one cord running up to my telescope instead of probably 5 or 6 or 7. And then this has a dew heater built into it. So I can put these little straps around my telescope and my guide scope, and that's going to help prevent dew from forming while, throughout the night, and I can keep taking pictures. At that time, I also kind of determined, you know what? The next logical step, I've been taking color photos. The next logical step for me is I want to take mono photos. So this was a little bit of a long journey for me, starting to grab different data or different components of that. I started out buying a filter wheel. I'll show, got a little picture of it here, for me to easily change filters while not being at the telescope. I don't have to take everything apart anymore. And then I started to purchase a few of these filters. I didn't get my camera till later. So continuing on down that path, eventually I did get a mono camera, and a mono camera will shoot in basically black and white as opposed to a color camera. What this allows me to do is use different filters, and I can get better signal in different colors. So I can take a red picture that's allowing red wavelengths through. I can take a blue one that's allowing blue through, green and luminance. And then when I add that all together, I've got a color picture that is a lot easier to bring out the color and deal with than what I've been dealing with a color camera. Color camera works great, but you're going to get a lot of light pollution. You're going to get a lot of mashing together of color. This allows me to really target different colors and make sure I'm getting a true to form image of that color. So that started out for me last year, kind of the last one I've got here, a bunch that I've done starting this year. I got a bunch of narrowband filters. This allowed me to fill out the rest of my filter wheel here. So I can take LRGB photos, I can take some HA, oxygen 3, sulfur 2, different kinds of filters will allow different kinds of light through. I got one of these little boxes here, this little blue box. This is a automatic focuser. So no longer do I have to go out to my telescope and turn the knobs anymore. I can sit at my computer and say, go autofocus, and get perfect pinpoint focus. Even when I was doing it manually and even with a bot knob mask, it was never quite perfect. So these past few months have been really exciting to see, wow, I was actually really far off, even though it looked like I was right on the money. So I'm getting a lot better focus here this year. I started using PixInsight, which is a true dedicated post-processing program that's for astrophotos, and it makes a ton of difference for what I was doing from Photoshop. And then lastly, I got a portable battery box here, so I can actually go mobile now. I'm no longer tethered to the 50-foot extension cord coming from my house. I can now pack up and join some of you all now when we go out to different places like Burton's. So my journey, again, it started out with just like, hey, can I take a camera and point it at the sky? And then it's been a gradual add-on of different equipment over time. And this is kind of my full setup here that I've got an image of. But it's really allowed me to take what started out as a fuzzy little, purple view of Orion. And these are just several recent things that I've done. And it's just kind of amazing to me that, hey, you can actually do this from your backyard in a place like Collierville. Whereas I always thought this was like inaccessible to people like us. So that's my journey. I'll leave it there and hand it back over to others or answer questions if anybody wants.
Yeah, let's stop for questions. I mean, first of all, I wrote down a bunch of notes that are new terms that you covered for the folks that have never heard of before. So maybe there's a good time to, is there some questions and all what you just heard? Because this is a great journey and answers probably many of the things you're pondering right now in terms of costs and types of equipment and what equipment you do need and such. So is there?
Yeah, I didn't get into cost, and I might cry if I get into cost. So there,
Well,
that's another conversation too.
It couldn't be much cheaper than Freddie's starting out though. So Cheryl, anybody have questions? You got.
I have one question.
Okay. Cheryl was muted. Cheryl was muted. She was starting.
I don't have any yet, not right now.
Oh, okay.
I'm just enjoying listening.
Go ahead, Alan.
So, okay, so you said you had the L enhanced filter and you had the little, I guess when you're doing your manual focusing, how are you able to do that with that dark filter in there? Is it just?
So I did have to take longer exposures, and I had to pick the brightest stars. So it's more of a challenge, but it can be done. It's been a minute since I've done it that way, but I'd sometimes have my exposures, and I'd crank it all the way up to like 400 gain on my camera or something just to get as close as I could to it. And then after that, I'd take it all apart and kind of eyeball it and say, how does this look? But it's not perfect, but it gets you pretty close.
Okay, so you have to move to a bright star and then move back to whatever you're going to take a picture of.
Thank you,
Yep.
Sirius.
Yeah. Yes.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Well,
Yeah, you need the bright star, Brent, because dim stars don't work in the mask, right? The mask patterns.
No, they work, but it's very dim.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I try to find either the brightest or kind of that next tier of brightness just to kind of be able to check it. But yeah, the dimmest ones you're not going to find.
The spikes are always there if you have the mask. The problem is that they are I don't know, 3 or 4 lower levels of magnitude than the star.
Yep.
Mhm.
And then lesson learned, it only took me one time of doing this, but always remember to take the mask off again once you're done. So I lost
Been
about
there.
3 hours on something. I don't
Oh,
remember what it
no.
was, but I went back and started looking at the data. I was like, what? Oh no.
Does anyone have experience using a clear focusing filter rather than cranking the gain up?
You cannot, because the different filters, unless you buy them explicitly per focal, they will have different focal distances. So if you focus with one filter, then the others will be out of focus.
Right, I was seeing the Optolong filters with the same thickness. So the whole idea was that you could use the clear filter to focus and then move to your narrowband filter.
Yes, but you have to buy them together.
Well,
Yeah,
the
even
The
narrowband,
same
then-
manufacturer.
Yeah, even then, there, parfocal's just a word. It's never a guarantee.
Yeah, I understand. Yes.
well, and the colors don't all focus at the same place
No.
anyway.
No.
So the narrow bands might get pretty close, but
Well, so some of the new people might want to know, where do you get this stuff? You had mentioned cloudy nights. Does everybody know that there are online places to buy used equipment so you can get into it cheaper?
Never use eBay. That's I gotta tell you.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't
I'll tell
know.
you, cloudy nights. I'll say
Yeah.
90% of everything that I ran through came used from cloudy nights.
Yes.
So cloudynights.com. There's a for sale classifieds forum in there. I'm on there all the
It's the
time, and I've
Astromart.
gotten the best deals on it.
There's another one called
Yeah.
Astromart. They're not
Astromart,
as
yeah.
active anymore, but it's cloudy
Yeah.
nights, but they have stuff. And I have bought stuff off of eBay and been fine with it. You just gotta be careful. That's all.
It allows you to get into the hobby without major cost of brand new equipment. So as you start to think about what kind of telescope and focuser and things that Brent just talked about, you can find it fairly cheap.
Yeah. I think someone who wants to go into this hobby needs to set up a budget, how much they want to spend. And then they should see how much they want to put that budget into the mount first, if they want to do this.
Yeah,
That's-
I've
that's-
always heard the
That's what
mount
we
is
should
the
do,
priority.
but I don't know anyone that ever has.
I started with one, and it quickly ran away from me.
The thing is, I got the mount first, and I got the scope from, I think, Astromart or Cloudy Nights, and I got the camera from there too. I had a fixed amount of budget, and everything worked. My basis was, if everything works within this budget, if I can take something good, I will keep on continue. If not, that's a bad investment. Or you
Yeah,
can send it
I
back.
had very much the same. I think I had the same approach
Yeah.
as you did, Kanwar, for sure.
Yeah.
Because I never thought I could even get to this point. And even as I started out, I was like, well, I'll start with a small telescope, and whoa, I could do that. Can I do more? Can I do more? Can I do more? And
Yeah.
it just keeps going.
Yeah, I think the one thing that helped me is I got, instead of a triplet or doublet, I got a quadruplet. With that one, as my first scope, I didn't have any backspace issues. So there's no backspace with that. I can just put any basically extension and put a camera. That's it. It's gonna work. So one less headache. And for focusing, I used to do manual focusing, but I use SharpCap. They have a feature called as focusing aid or something, which basically shows a graph if you're focusing better or wrong, if you're going right way or wrong way. That's helped me initially. But by talking to you, by hearing you guys, you're pointing to the sharp start. I never did that. I'm sorry, I never did. I never knew about that. I was just going to my location, just focusing on the stars that I could see.
Well, I can tell you, after having these autofocusers for the past couple of weeks, if I can go back and talk to myself a couple years ago, I would have said,
Oh yeah,
prioritize that. How
Oh,
much
yeah.
time I
Oh,
spent
yeah.
on focus? Oh my goodness, it's amazing.
Plus, you get focused wrong.
that's-
I thought I was perfectly focused many times, and then I go in there, start integrating, the stacked images, and oh crap, I'm out of focus. I had to throw it all away. A whole night's worth
Yeah.
of work. Yeah. So an autofocus, so you push a button, and I've never had it fail. It's just really great.
Yep.
But you also talked about the processing, because that's part and parcel to you take the images, then you got to do something with them. So that's whether it's Photoshop or PixInsight. I think Clay, you have a different one that you use. Can you share that with us?
So I use Astropixel processor. So during my journey in astrophotography, I think that the greatest help that I had was actually finding a mentor, somebody to talk astrophotography with. And he led me, I've have a question on some things, and he would say, yeah, that would be a good idea. That would be that would be a bad idea. Don't do that. And during my journey, a lot of things I've had to learn the hard way, buying some things that you necessarily don't need right now. And it helped me actually getting involved in the community and asking questions. And he led me. He's like, hey, look, get Astropixel processor. It's a good program. And so I followed his advice, and I'm used to Astropixel processor. I've looked at PixInsight. I mean, it's from the results, it's an amazing program. But I'm just so used to Pixel processor that's just the program I stay with.
Is it expensive? I have no idea.
I think it's like 165 pounds. Then you convert that over. So it's a little bit cheaper than Astropixel process. It's a little bit cheaper than PixInsight, but it's got a lot of things you can do in it too.
Okay. You use some terms of Bortle sky. Did all the new folks know what that means? No. Did somebody want to elaborate, Steve, or you want to?
Yeah, but Bortle is the lower the better. And it's measurement of how dark your sky is. So in my backyard, it's Bortle like 9 almost, which is really bad. So I'm using these filters that Brent's talking about, the exact same ones, L Enhance or L Extreme. And with those filters, you can bring in a lot of good images, even with really bad skies. But some of the national parks I've been to, like Grand Teton National Park, they're Bortle 0. And you lay down on your back and you look up at the stars and you see the Milky Way as if it's a photograph. So it's quite spectacular. But unfortunately, we don't have those skies.
No.
So yeah, I think Merrill's backyard, you're around Bortle
4,
4.5.
4.5, something like that.
Yeah. Those are really good skies compared to Bortle 8, like twice better.
And I'll clarify that it's not just sky darkness, it's light pollution. You know, you get out under a really dark sky and a full moon, and the sky is still pretty bright.
That's true.
But it's light pollution. It's purely about measuring light pollution. And you know, if anyone here ever gets an opportunity to go on a rant in front of some city council or something about lighting laws and what have you, feel free to do it on behalf of all of us.
As though it'll make a difference. Some of the terms you used, Brent, was dithering. Do you want to somebody explain that to why that's important?
So yeah, I guess the main reason when you are taking pictures, and this is something for newer people that haven't done this, these pictures aren't one picture. We're taking potentially tens, hundreds of pictures at different exposures. Maybe it's 30 seconds, 90 seconds, maybe it's 5 minutes, and you stack them all together, and that you're mashing that picture together to get a high quality picture in the end. So when you do that stacking, if you are not doing something called dithering, which I think I described it a little bit before, after every picture, you slightly move your frame, slightly move it. So it's not kind of a pattern. You will get a noise pattern that comes from your mount while it's moving across the sky. And I had that picture up earlier. It looks like wavy little squiggle lines. And it will, you basically can't really process those out. So as long as you're dithering, you'll avoid that pattern of noise that's coming from your mount, and you'll have those random movements so that when you smash all the pictures together, it'll be nice and smooth across the board. There might be a better scientific definition for it, but that's at least my experience and definition with it.
Well, the famous question is mono or one-shot color starting out with, which one?
I learned a lot starting out with color, and I still have it, and I don't use it as much anymore since I've started. But it's definitely easier. I feel if you're not sure that this is for you, then 100% I would start with color. because mono, it's a lot more work and effort. You got to take more exposures, you got to have more filters, more equipment. So personally, you can dive into the journey anywhere you want to. If you know that's where you want to end, then maybe you start out there if you got the funds to make it happen. But for anybody getting started, I'd say a color camera, it won't disappoint you as you're learning and kind of going from there. And then when you get tired of it, you can go list it up on cloudy nights and move on to the next thing.
Right. Well, the other thing you had on your screen is the process control. You had Nina, but because something has got to control all your telescope, taking pictures and moving the telescope and picking out targets. So, anyone want to talk about that?
Yeah, I can talk about the Nina side of it. So there are a lot of people here that use a kind of all-in-one box called a ASI Air, and others can kind of talk about that. But I use that mini PC and different forms of software on that PC. And throughout time, I've kind of changed on what I use. Right now, I'm using a program called Nina. It's free, open source, and it allows you to set up and take the pictures. I can build sequences and say, take 3 red shots, then take 3 blue shots, then 3 green shots, then 3 luminant shots, and then let's loop through and do it all again. It can also help me find targets and kind of move to those targets. So there's a lot of different software that will do that, but Nina is the program that I'm currently using.
I stepped right in with Maxim DL, and that was a huge learning curve. That's many years ago, but very good software, but it's a huge learning curve.
So for ZWO ASI Air, I currently use one of those, and it's definitely a simple setup. Everything's there. Once you put the software on your phone, tablet, it's all there in one package. But the only downfall to ASI Air is it all has to be ZWO products. As far as Nina, it's a lot more advanced setup, but it's a lot more custom. A lot more custom options you can do.
Did everybody see Antoinette's question, or it was Cameron? How far back are we go? A walking noise.
Oh, and to speak for the ASI Air, I did buy one of those, and last Saturday night was the first time I used it, and I was able to go through all the processes, the polar alignment and the focusing and the setting up a target and all of that, all in almost an hour or two. But I do know that I had been watching Steve and others, the videos on YouTube about using the device before I started, but it did really well, or was pretty easy.
I was going to interject real quick. Antoinette, that is a textbook example of walking noise that you just
It
uploaded.
is. Yeah, I just saw it too, Brent. And a mount with a dithering setting will solve those problems, or I think Noise X will get rid of it in processing.
Yeah. One thing we probably ought to do as a group, when somebody writes a message, or question, we ought to stop and answer that before going on to the next. Did we get a Cameron? You have, okay, you had a question as well. So how much do you dither? 3, 4, 5 pixels?
Depends on the camera. You want to dither longer if you're on DSLR. But if you bought a really good Astro cooling camera, you can get by with a pixel.
My question's actually kind of related to that. So with me having such a wide field setup, I did dither on my first night out with the Horsehead Nebula, but I think I set it to only dither every, I want to say 2 frames, 2 or 3 frames, and I'm not sure how many pixels I had it set to dither in the ASI Air, but when I went back to look at my images, there still was some walking noise present, not a lot, but just a little bit, mainly down towards the bottom of the image. So I'm not sure if I should actually change those settings from the default to maybe dither every picture and move the pixels around a little bit more since I have such a wide field setup.
I know I personally have it dither on every
Every frame.
capture. Yeah, I don't know the science behind it, but I have always done every single frame unless I'm switching between filters in between, but it just helps avoid any potential risk of it showing up here. And I shared the picture. I think my screen sharing now. I opened up the picture that you shared, Antoinette, just so everybody can see it here. But you see all the streaks that are moving here. It's all uniform throughout the picture, but that's the walking noise we're talking about.
And what is the cause of that?
It's noise from the CCD that gets integrated into the image, and it's not possible to remove that with with dark frames or flat frames because it is being created with the image. So when you dither, you allow the dark frames and your image frames to compensate for that noise, and it's removed.
I don't
One
understand.
other quick question about the dithering too, whenever y'all have a second.
Sure.
I noticed too, when I still use Deep Sky Stacker because I'm a little bit more old school. That's what I started with. But do you have to enable the 2x drizzle option when you take dither photos, or can you leave that off? Because I notice it makes the image like double the resolution, which then usually takes longer to run the scripts on and like PixInsight and stuff, just because it's such a large image.
So I think dithering is a requirement to use 2x. The drizzle, it's one of the there's like 2 or 3 things that you have to do for drizzle to work appropriately, and dithering is one of those things. But you don't have to use drizzling if you are dithering or not dithering. But
Right.
if you are going to drizzle, then you need to be dithering.
And those are all familiar terms with everybody. Drizzle.
Yeah, drizzle, it's a post-processing thing. I think it got developed by the Hubble team, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a way to kind of, it makes your image bigger and it fills in the gaps to make it kind of a higher quality version of the image. So it can get you a better looking image that you can work with, but it's going to make it a lot bigger and kind of fill in the gaps by doing something called drizzling. I don't know this technically what's happening, but you know, in general, that's what's going on.
John had a question about a camera. Do you want to speak and tell us what you're looking for? You're muted.
Okay.
There
What
you
was
go.
that again? I'm sorry, I was distracted for just a moment.
Well, that's right. You had asked a question.
Yeah, I had a color camera, ASI. Off the top of my head, I can't remember, 120, something like that. And I dribbled it on the patio, and that didn't do it any good. So I'm going to have to get another. And I just wonder, what's a good color one to start with? I know you can spend as much money as you want to on the different brands and what have you, but I'm just kind of beginning to get into it, and would just like to know what's just a good solid one to start with without breaking the bank.
I'd say, me personally, hands down, the 294, the ASI 294. It will take you. It's a camera you can always fall back on and use it for a long time. And when you upgrade it, you can turn around and use that camera on another scope too, And it's just the 294 is an all around great camera.
Okay. The one I had, I wish I could remember. I think it was a 120 a color, but anyway, what I had trouble with was getting my objects to centered on the chip. It was like I was looking at a larger chip to work with, because it seemed like I could never get the object, whether it was even Jupiter, on the where I wanted it. Any ideas on that, or is this one a pretty good one as far as being able to find the object pretty easily once you get your finder scope set on it?
What is it that you want to take an image of?
Well, I'm starting a local with the planets, and I've been pretty successful with that. I'd also like to start working on some deep space. I've got a used Canon Rebel EOS, and I've been working with that some, but probably I want to just cut my teeth on something local within the solar system, and then move outward from there, since I'm just getting started on that.
Well, for planets, you want a high frame rate to get good images, and a larger chip in planetary cameras, I would recommend the 585, which can also be used for deep space, although it's not cooled. And for me, the absence of amp glow is a big selling point, since I'm not really interested in post-processing at this point. I'd like to just like live stack and just be done with it. For deep sky, I might start dipping my toes into the processing bit later, but for now I like the simplicity of live stacking, and having no amp glow means it won't be in the live stack.
And to elaborate on that a little bit, capturing the image is one whole side of it. Post-processing is a whole nother side of it. I may take an hour post-processing an image. I may take days post-processing an image just to keep working on it. Stacking it'll take time, and then it's a matter of doing things like stretching it to bring out the color, and doing noise removal procedures, and combining things together. And we could spend probably a whole nother session on the basics of that, I'd imagine. But yeah, that's a whole nother side of it to think about.
I can definitely attest to that with me kind of starting, backwards in this hobby. I actually started out processing first with Telescope.live way back in the day. Clay's used it as well every now and then. And it's great, for people that just want to get started processing but don't necessarily have the money for the equipment yet, or don't want to necessarily invest all of that money into the equipment yet. Because processing it's just a beast by itself. It really is, especially with all the different software and terms out there. But the problem with Telescope.live, I notice, is it gets you started out processing really nice, high quality data. So then once you get out there with your own equipment, especially if you have more of an amateur setup, it's a little bit different. Once you get to that processing part. But it does help. It definitely does help, because once you get those first images, you kind of have a rough idea of, hey, now I know what to do with these.
For those that don't know, we have a fair number of very high quality data on the cloud drive that you all have access to. If you don't, let me know. Or some Martin Pugh data, and it's just excellent. So if you really want to get your feet wet in processing, it's available to you. Do we want to stop here? Anybody else? Some of the new folks have questions. That we've covered a lot of ground here.
I have a question for the new folks.
Okay, there, that'll work.
If they don't have any questions, let's hear from them first. Okay, my question is, are you thinking about buying a camera or a telescope? Or do you want to use existing equipment?
So I have a weird one for you guys. I'm an airline pilot. And I fly across to Europe a lot. I'm trying to think of a way, maybe you guys can brainstorm some way. I've tried taking pictures with the iPhone of the stuff that we see flying along. It's just incredible. But obviously the phone is just terrible. You know what I mean? But you're seeing the auroras, you're seeing everything you always want to see. I'd love to be able to take a picture of it somehow. So it'd be something small, something that I
From the
won't get arrested
cockpit,
going through
right?
security with. Yeah. From the cockpit. I don't know, something to think on it. I think you get some really cool pictures up there. I just don't know how to do it.
I'd maybe
Well, get-
start by getting an Android phone.
I
Hold
think
up now. The latest iPhone's got a really nice camera in it too.
Yes, it does.
The
I think you
DSLR,
can-
do you have a DSLR?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I
I've got a
that's right.
DSLR.
Put
That's
a
where I'd
fast
go.
lens on it. Put an f1.8 lens on that. Start taking shots, and I think you'll be happy.
And I would recommend that you get as close as you can to the window. So you
Well,
don't
that's
have
just the
internal
reflections.
reflections.
Right.
That's one thing. The reflection's really bad and the vibration is really bad.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you could buy a mount that has vibration damping. I know some
Clamp it.
folks who use astronomy
Right.
from airplanes, and they would just have a mount that had built-in vibration damping, and maybe GoPro sells something like that.
Okay.
They do.
Is there a reflection like filter or something? Do you guys know?
Polarizer filter.
Well,
Polarizer filter?
also,
Good idea.
I don't know what the latest model Sony's do, but my Sony A7 does anti-vibration electronically anyway.
On the CCD, yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
it moves the CCD chip around to offset all that. While the Canons and stuff like that always had that built into the lenses.
So is that a mortal zero sky, you think?
Probably.
At 35,000
Pretty
feet,
cool.
I bet.
You are over the clouds, so the
Over the
clouds are helping you
telling you,
there.
man. There's no clouds. There's
And
no
you're over the
nothing. It's
light.
awesome.
That aurora is definitely on my bucket list. Seeing some of the recent pictures people have, I'm like, oh wow.
Yeah.
So Robert, I just pasted a link into the chat to
Okay.
not cheap, but some kind of mount that you could suction cup to the window and then maybe configure it so your camera is damped.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, so Steve did
So
answer
are
the
you-
question.
Well, I was going to ask him if he was captain.
No.
Yeah, you're
Let's
not
give
going
you
to
more
stick
time to
that
look
on
out
the
the window,
windshield.
man. I just stare out the window.
So Steve, your question was what again?
Yeah, I was up to the like. I've got a tool that I really love, and I always use it before I make a purchase. And Meryl, do I have a moment to share that tool?
Sure.
Okay, it's a website called astronomy.tools. And let me share my screen.
You said a lot.
From phone, spam risk.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this thing called FOV calculator. And you can choose either visual mode or imaging mode. Since we're interested in astrophotography, I just chose imaging mode. And I can choose a camera like a Zoe ASI 071. Brent has one, I have one, I think Rick has one. So it was a very popular camera. And say I've just got like a tiny telescope that's like 130 focal length and a small aperture. I can add that to a view and choose something like Andromeda Galaxy. I can see what that telescope at that focal length will show with the Andromeda Galaxy. And so it's a fantastic, like if you get more like 127 millimeters have like 1,000 focal length or 900. How much is it, Brent? Like 900?
952.
Okay. So I just added, this is what you see if you're using like a 5-inch 900 on this particular camera. You get to choose any camera you want and add the focal length. It's a fantastic tool to make a purchasing decisions. What targets are you going after? So this is what, so with a 5-inch Andromeda is a problem. You'd have to do a mosaic or you have to reduce it. And then, you can just look at other objects like something smaller, like a dumbbell nebula. And that's what it would look like, the size it would be on that camera. So so if you're making a purchase, astronomy.tools, the field of view tool, can be very helpful to you.
Hey Meryl, do you mind if I chime in on something? I have another tool kind of similar to that. I wouldn't mind showcasing to the new people starting.
Go ahead.
Let's see.
You can share.
On this screen share. I've not tried this before, so we'll see if it works. All right. I should have Chrome pulled up if everyone can see that. So this is Telescopius. It's kind of similar to astronomy tools, and you don't have to make an account on this, but it does help if you know for sure, like once you have a camera or a setup in mind that you want to just keep and kind of save as a profile, you can do that on here. So I already have an account and my camera and focal length set up with them. It gives you weather conditions, and then it kind of shows you what's in the sky tonight for your area. So we have it set to Memphis, and you can see, Witch Head, Running Man, Pallades. And you can also just go in here and type in an object if there's, something in particular you're looking for. And I can just go to M45, and we already have my setup here. You can type in your focal, your aperture, if you're using a Barlow or not, and then your camera specs. And let me refresh the page real quick because it did not. It's not wanting to load the picture right now, maybe because I'm screen sharing. But anyway, it'll essentially give you kind of a photo in here, like Steve was showing. Usually they're a little bit more high quality. In terms of the actual photo itself, the way it might look. So just another kind of thing to, there we go. Now it loaded. So I have my camera rotated 90 degrees east currently. So basically this is roughly kind of, your field of view, what your picture is going to look like, which is nice. And if you want to, use something like binning or cropping, then you can go ahead and mess with that just a little bit, just to get a little better idea. So just another neat tool out there aside from astronomy tools. I do use them as well. They're pretty good.
And it's free.
Yeah, both of these are free. Astronomy tools and Telescopius. They're kind of like Astrobin too. You can also post your pictures on there if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
Telescopius is fantastic. You can put your data in there of how you captured everything and save it, and then you can come back and see what you did. It's a good way to log what you're doing, and it's free, and they put high-res images up there.
Well, it also has the advantage if you're looking for targets, you see something you want, you put them in your, basically has a calendar and gives you reminders ahead of time. This is coming up when the new moon is here, and so you can plan way in advance. It's got lots and lots of tools that you can use.
Yes, I love it.
Okay.
I do use that quite a bit in combination with Stellarium, just to, hey, I know this object is going to be in this direction at this time. It's going to clear the trees, around this time. It gives you a little bit of pre-planning can help a lot when you actually get out there. Save you a lot of setup time for sure.
So Stellarium's another free program that the new folks ought to consider exploring.
Highly agree. And if you guys don't have, a good PC setup, it is available on iOS and Android. You can run it from your phone, your tablet, your computer, whatever you got.
And if anyone would like an introductory lesson to Stellarium, I have one written for my class. I'm happy to send it to you. You can get through it in about an hour and a half, and you'll be a Stellarium pro at the end of that.
You want to
That
post
makes me sad on the kind of classes that I used to have to take, that I could have had a class like that. And
That's right. Isn't that the truth? So, Andy, you use Stellarium for your dome at Rhodes College?
We use it for planning, and then in the astronomy class, the students learn how to use Stellarium, so they have that tool later on when they want to do astronomy.
Mhm.
There you go.
Rick,
Antoinette.
Rick Antoinette has a question that I think you should field.
Yeah. Have at it.
Looking for tips on cleaning the mirror. I have a 8-inch Newtonian.
And it's new.
No, I've had it like 2 years now, but the mirror needs to be cleaned.
Why do you think the mirror needs to be cleaned first?
Because when you I've cleaned my camera, I cleaned the secondary mirror, but when you look at it, you can see little dust specks on it, and then there's dust specks in my pictures.
Okay. So first off, the dust specks on your mirror aren't the ones on your pictures. The ones on your picture are probably dust specks on your camera, on the CCD chip of your camera. Now, and the reason I ask those questions is it's amazing just how dirty a mirror has to get before it actually impacts the image that you see looking through a telescope. So, and you can do more damage to the mirror cleaning it than you can just leaving it alone and continuing to look through it. To clean a mirror in a Newtonian telescope, I typically will start with just trying to blow it off with compressed air. If it's dirtier than that, then I take the mirror out and I submerge it in water and try to float the dirt off of it. The last thing you want to do is take even soft cotton and push the dirt across the surface, because it's just like sandpaper. And
Distilled water too.
well, I use so the first wash, you don't have to use distilled water. I certainly find, and you should maybe, but a little bit of a few drops of dish soap in an appropriate size container and float the dirt off as much as you can. Very light rubbing. I take a big wad of cotton ball and just lightly let it touch, no pressure, as it go across the surface of the mirror, and float the dirt off. Then I rinse the mirror with distilled water, and that's going to keep you from winding up with spots on it as the water dries. I'll take compressed air to blow most of the water off, maybe a hair dryer if I really want to get it dry in a hurry to get the rest of the water off. I'll typically just stand it up and let it dry off, though. You can use, and I have got a rinse solution that I make with distilled water and a little bit of a wetting solution to cause it to sheet off the glass pretty quick. But that's photographic stuff that you buy a bottle that's like this big, and you need like 5 drops in a thing, so it'll last forever, but it's not that expensive. But it's called Photo Flow. But that's basically it. With mirrors, you got to realize that coating is on the front surface. It is exposed to everything, and very few of them actually have any real coatings over the metal that's coating it. Some do. Meade went through years ago and coated a bunch of their Schmidt-Cassegrain primaries with silver, and of course then had to overcoat it with something else because silver tarnishes. Problem was they didn't do the same thing to their secondaries. So you can buy a lot of older Meade silvered optics, Schmidt-Cassegrains that have got bad secondaries in them, and pull the secondary out, have it recoated, and have a wonderful telescope. So anyway, that's cleaning mirrors, cleaning optics.
It will never be the same.
Yeah.
So Antoinette, did that Newt, did you, that shot you shared with the walking noise, was that on that 8-inch Newtonian?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at that image. I don't think it, it looks pretty good. I mean, other than the walking noise. So I'm kind of like Rick, maybe don't mess with that yet.
Especially if they are in the picture. Those are not on the mirror, on the main mirror.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm curious. Have you started looking at flat pictures?
Flats.
Not.
So I think that's going to do you a world of good when taking a picture. And you probably talk a long time on this. There's something called calibration frames, and a flat is like I put a white T-shirt in front of my my telescope, and then you point it at a light source, and that will give you a flat view, which will show you with light coming in a kind of diffuse flat pattern. This is what that light looks like, and it'll show you, okay, I have these dust specks here, here, and here, and then when you process them, it can eliminate those dust specks from your light picture that you gathered. So there are flats, there's something called flat darks, and then darks typically are what are used. In some cases, there's another one called bias, but there are, when you stack all those together, it'll help remove any of those things that'll, those dust specks will just always be there. Mine looks like that. I wish I could pull one up and show you because I have so many of them on mine, but I just ignore them on my lights because I know my flat pictures are going to just zero those out so everything looks good in the end.
Okay. I attempted flats once, but it came out pinkish, and I haven't tried it again.
Flats are difficult.
Yeah.
But you need them.
Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking the white T-shirt, and then I think I've used an iPad on a white screen before, or one of those real cheap. I'm not sure if it's called a light board or whatever, a little like 11x17 thing you just plug into your USB port and it puts a little light on.
There is a device in Amazon that generates just a white light, so you can use that to that one. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
that's
hold on. Let me turn off my background. I'll show you the one that I use.
Yeah, I think the one I have is
turn
called
this off.
a tracing light box.
That's what I use. It does a good job. Are you using a DSLR, Antoinette?
Yes.
Okay.
A T5, Rebel T5.
Yes, yeah, that's a
Does
great.
it has a automatic cleaning of the CCD?
It does. Every time you turn it off, it
Okay.
cleans.
Well, you can disable it.
I actually ran the cleaning in the menus. It has where you can set up, start the cleaning process, and it raises it where you're supposed to do like compressed air to blow off any little specks or anything. I've done that. And for a while, the pictures will be clear again, but then over time, it'll be right back. I was trying to find a picture where there was actually, the one I posted was before I started getting the specs. I was trying to find one where I could show you an example of the specs, but I haven't found one yet to post.
The solution is like Merrill said, using flats.
Flat, okay.
Well,
And hey, Meryl and Brandon, could that pink happen because of like a bad debaying that occurred? Because I've
Or
never
the
heard of a pink cast going into a flat.
the images are so short exposure. I don't. There is a free,
I'd say, oh, sorry, Meryl, you finish.
there is a free way of doing it. It's sky flats.
That's your point. That's
You
sky.
do it right before the sun sets at a vacant sky, but the flats are usually a couple tenths of a second.
Yeah,
Right.
I was
did
gonna say
mine,
either.
I'm sorry,
ahead,
I
Val.
did mine early in the morning with the t-shirt.
Well, okay,
Um,
but you're
Do you know how long they were exposure wise?
no, I don't remember.
Wait,
So my guess was it'd be two things to try. One, if you're doing a t-shirt, like double it. Potentially there's too much light coming in, and then shorten the exposures depending on what technology you use. There's like different numbers and averages that you can try to aim for. But it sounds like maybe there was still too much light coming in, and that may be why it was turning out pinkish.
Did you have a wall close to you, a brick wall or something like that?
I do.
The color of the brick.
Maybe you are reflecting the light from the bricks,
Could
and
be.
that is what's tinting your flats.
Okay.
you know, the formula is a third to a half of full well capacity for your exposures. So if you got, I mean, I don't know what it is for your camera.
You can see in your the histogram of the DSLR that is just below the half.
Antoinette, do you
half.
have an ASI Air? How do you control the camera?
I have an ASI Air Pro.
Okay, when you took your flat, did you do the auto exposure? There's this.
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, so it should have been a proper exposed flat then, because it calculates the light and gives you what it considers perfect ADU.
Okay, let's see.
For anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, I got a picture of mine capturing some flats here. So I've just got a light board set up. I've got my t-shirt kind of pulled taut around the end of it.
I think that I have that exam LED light board.
I do too.
Yep. This is like $15 on Amazon, and it's
Amazon,
worth
yes.
every penny.
It sure is. Yeah, I just set it on top of I don't even use a t-shirt. I just set it on top of the telescope in a 90-degree position.
Yeah, and it covered even my C8. I'm good.
And what exposure do you have with that? What duration?
If I'm not wrong, it was 160. It depends on the brightness you put on the screen, but I did mine last time with 160.
160 what? Seconds?
Of second, yes.
Wow. Mine used to tenths of a second.
Oh yeah, because your camera is much more sensitive. Sensitive.
Sure.
Yep, I bet you.
Okay, well, it has
with 800 ISO 800, and then 1/60th of a second. Yes.
Okay.
I have some buddies who say that flats that are around 2 to 3 seconds are the best ones if you can get there. Exposure.
Yeah. As long as I can see my little dust circles, I call it a win.
That's right. Dust circles and vignetting, right?
Well, the problem with that is that you start, for my sky flats, you start getting stars showing up.
That's true.
You can take them out.
Is anyone using Mina for flats?
No, I'm not. Brent, you should.
I've not had luck with the auto one. I feel like I do it better manually so far.
Oh, if you try Nina, it's like really, really easy. Everything is automatic.
All right, you got to teach me something, Kanwar.
Oh, it takes flats really, really easy.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is basically defined. How much step size you want to go for, how much the max exposure you want to go, how much should be the histogram, like the range, and how much should be the variation in percentage that it can take. It's easy.
Can you set it by
I used to be in
that? That's what I struggled with.
Yep. You can do per filter. It's automatic, all filters at once or per filter, however you want to do.
Right.
It's easy. Like I used to have the same thing that you guys are talking about, using the T-shirt and everything. But after using Nina, it's quick.
Well, if you remember what next month's topic is going to be is Nina. So you're going to explain it to us next month.
Okay, I'll take some pictures.
That's good.
Yeah.
How about any other questions for the new folks?
I would add to Antoinette that she's using ASI Air. When she takes her flats, the exposure is remembered. So then you could put a lens cover on your telescope, and you can go take darks, and it'll have the same exact exposure as the flats, and you can have a calibration frame called a flat dark that will take a lot of noise out, which could be very beneficial.
Okay, thanks.
But it does take some patience and skill, and once you get it down, it makes a big difference.
And I would add to all our newcomers at Burton Sugar Farm, there's a lot of people ready to help. If you bring your equipment out, we sit down and help you with it.
Okay. Additional questions? This is for our customers, which are the new folks. Nope. Oh, shared a file with me. Okay, you shared.
Hey, I think it was Ann. Can you share the link to your Stellarium class?
It's actually a document. How can I get that to these folks, Merrill?
Well, can you put it on Slack? I think everybody here is on Slack, our Slack channel.
Are you on the Slack channel? Okay, I'll post it on there.
Okay, that'd be the easiest.
Thanks.
Are we winding down here? I guess so. One thing I did notice, you see this beautiful picture behind Brent that's of the narrowband cone nebula. Well, and it's so interesting. Mine is the same nebula in color. I mean, see if I can. You can't see the full screen, but can you see that? Do you see the full color one?
Not yet. It looks like it's trying to. There it goes. Yeah.
Okay, just the difference between narrowband and color.
What did you filter with that Merrill?
This is what I took this with the my S-Big camera that had a.k.a. LRGB.
Right.
And I think yours was at SHO, Brent.
Yeah, this one was SHO, and then I can switch it over and you can kind of see, with the narrowband filters, I can kind of make the fake colors what I want them to be. So this is kind of more of a natural look at what it would look like. But the SHO is something called Hubble palette, and it's where, I actually don't know where it came from, but it's a different way to combine the channels to RGB to provide different colors, more yellows and blues and oranges, as opposed to maybe what's more traditional red and green and blue. So you can get a little artsy with it.
Well, yeah, you posted a whole bunch of formulas for pixel math. And
yeah, I did about 5 of these just to find the ones that I like best.
Anthony, that picture that you posted, what are the arrows signaling?
The Seven Sisters.
Yeah, but she has like 2 arrows pointing to something.
Those are the areas where, like, I was trying to find a brighter picture, but those are the areas where the specs are like the same on 7 different, like on all my pictures, it's the same specs. And even if I change location, and those same areas would be,
it looks like a coma. Problem. Yeah. But
like on
it's
lighter pictures, it was
Which
more
would
like
be the
almost like a
case.
horseshoe shape kind of.
Yeah, I think I see what she's talking about. Fred, it's hard to see.
Yeah. but
Yeah, the
Freddie's right.
A flat would flat out get rid of that, Antoinette.
Okay. All right,
Um,
thank you.
You mean
So
the
take
stock-
like 10 flats and take like 10 flats or so and compile that or stack it with whatever software you're stacking with.
Are you
Well,
talking about stars though? Star shape?
Well, she's going to get coma with a wide field of view in her Newtonian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. By the way, I love her deflection spikes on that Newtonian.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Here's a question. Why do the stars have a tail?
If they're on the outside, they have a tail, right? That's
Yeah, look at all the stars.
that's some drift. That's some,
Yeah, that is drift.
there's drift, and then I think there might be a little bit of back focus here. You can see the shapes of the stars.
well,
kind of-
on the
Maybe the
outside
camera
edges,
is not completely parallel or perpendicular
yeah.
to the light path.
right.
So one side of the picture is like out of focus, and I would think you need to be sure that there are no obstructions in your light path. Steve Elmer was having an issue like this, and it ended up being a small bit of a screw that was pointing out from his adapter. He changed to a 2-inch adapter, disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can see right there. So there, you may have like one of the pictures you took maybe had a little bit of drift and it got
Mhm.
stacked in with the rest.
Yeah, maybe.
So that may be what these little tails are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still trying to learn the processing images.
Now, are
It's
those
beautiful.
Did you put those
nice.
deflection spikes in, or are they part of the Newtonian?
No, that's the way it came out.
I just love
Oh,
that.
that's nice.
Refraction spikes,
Yeah.
Hubble pictures.
Newtonians, they do that. They're great.
Well, you can simulate that with a couple of strings in front of the scope.
Well, Merrill likes to put his in manually.
Yeah.
Well, yes, you can do that too. Yeah.
Very, very, very end of the process. If Brent likes to sign his name, I like to sign my star spikes.
That's right.
I like to see them, but I don't like to add them to my pictures.
How can you get rid of coma, or if there's a way to get rid of coma? You mentioned coma.
So coma is the effects of a spherically ground mirror, and toward the outside edges of the field of view, it's going to the star will look like it has a kind of a shadow extending out from the center of the image, and that's how you know for sure it's coma. On one side they'll go one way, on the other side they'll go the other, and they make some field flatteners filters that can help get rid of some of that.
Teleview has a coma corrector, right?
There's a lot of them out there.
I wasn't sure if you.
Are you
if
reducing
did
at
that.
all? Are you reducing this off the 8-inch Newtonian? Do you have a reducer?
No.
Okay, yeah. So telescopes are not, especially older ones, were not really designed for astrophotography. So if you want to get rid of coma, and correct me if I'm wrong, Freddie, a reducer would really help with that.
Yeah, it's not cheap. I think it's $300.
Yeah.
But it's
Probably not
good.
worth it. There's
works.
another little gimmick that I've tried that really helps with that. It doesn't cure it totally. In the WBPP and PixInsight, I take my color information and it allows you to, and you can contact us on this on another day, but I intentionally split it into separate RGB files before it's even integrated. And then I have the star alignment, and it aligns and kind of fixes a lot of that chroma, and then restack it. It reduces it significantly on the processing side.
So when you see the master images and you have one RGB and then a R, a G, and a B, it's the RGB that you use that.
Right. So at the traditional color camera, you integrate an RGB that has already been debayed. So what this does is before it does the alignment, it splits it into a bunch of files. It just splits everything up. Then it aligns it as separate RGBs, and then it fixes it, a lot of it.
Yeah, makes a major difference.
Mm.
But you use the 3 different RG and V images and not the RGB that it creates also at the same time.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. You forget about what came off the camera.
Okay, well, we lost Ann. She had to leave. Any other last questions before we sign off for tonight?
Hey, I've been sort of a stalker, Jennifer. I've been like a lurker the last 2 meetings. I'm like really, really, really new to astrophotography. So this may be an extremely amateur question, but right now I'm just working with a Canon 7D Mark II and a tripod and like a telephoto lens or wide angle lens, depending on what I'm photographing. And I haven't done any deep sky anything because I don't really think I have the equipment. So for somebody, if I want to, like, I guess, keep my camera starting out, I'm not ready to spend a bunch of money on a new camera yet. What would be the next piece of equipment that could help me take my astrophotography to the next stage?
What lens do you have on that camera right now?
So I got I'm trying to remember what I have. It's been a while since I actually got out there and did anything. Right now, my telephoto is just the stock one that is like up to 200. And I got a wide angle that I think is I can't remember off the top of my head if it's a 50 millimeter. I know it has a low f-stop, so like a 1.8. But I don't remember. It might be a 25 millimeter wide angle.
So I know, Jennifer, I'm not sure if you were here in the beginning when I did the little presentation, because that's exactly how I started out. My quick thoughts to that would be probably thinking about some kind of lightweight tracking mount would be step one. Maybe something like a Star Adventure or something lightweight that you can put on a tripod, and then you still use that camera and that'll allow you to take longer exposures. And then from there, you can kind of figure out where you want to go. But I think a camera like that is more than capable to start out and capture stuff. Your problem is quickly going to become tracking the moving sky.
Okay. Do you recommend, because I know like with the telephoto, when you're trying to, I'm imagining that's what I would need to try and get the deeper sky images. But movement with that, it can be really tricky. So do you have a recommendation for a stabilizer for that, or?
One thing that you need to remember is that the telephotos for mostly lenses for DSLRs, the infinite focus is not completely all the way to infinite. So if you can find a batten mask that can fit in your lens, it will help you to focus, because sometimes you are getting something, but it's out of focus and the camera is not, the image is not registering. So you may be thinking of a small batten of matte that you can put in front of your lens for focusing.
Okay. And, yeah, I don't even think I've tried my telephoto for stars. I've only used my.
Well, you can try with the moon, and you will see the difference.
With your telephoto, Freddie, I think she can do 4-second exposures at that.
The moon.
Do a lot of them and stack them.
Yes. Yeah. Or a video.
Well, actually, I think she's talking about deep sky.
Oh, well, yes.
So I mean, if you're backed out to like 35 millimeters or less, you might get 20-second exposures. But if you're on a DSLR and you're zoomed in, I mean, you're lucky to get 4 seconds.
Do you think I can get a decent image with a wide angle, with like a 35 or 25 wide angle
You
Well,
can
let me-
take the Milky Way, yes.
Yeah,
If
great
you are
Milky
patient
Way
enough.
shots and capture a little bit of the horizon to give it scale. Yeah, there's some really neat things you can do, including at some point, taking the what little bit of the treetops and stuff, take a bright flashlight and light them up once real quick during a long exposure and see
Painting
what
the
that does to
trees.
it.
Yeah, I've seen those images and I haven't played around with it yet, but cool.
Well, the key there is playing, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's the key word. And having fun.
If I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, I think there's a website too. It might be that Astronomy Tools website where you can type in your focal length, I think, with an untracked mount, and
it will tell you.
It'll give you like a rough
Hmm.
idea how long you can expose for without
There
needing
is-
a tracking mount.
There is a formula that tells you based on the pixel size and the focal length and the aperture, what is the maximum exposure, because in theory, you start seeing a star trace when the image achieves from one pixel to the other.
Look at the meteorite.
Yeah.
Last issue of the meteorite, we have that formula in there.
Okay. Thanks. That'll give me a start. And you guys mentioned Burton's Sugar Farm, I think, but on the calendar, it has it set for the 18th, and on the list of observings, it's on the 23rd. Which one is it?
Are you talking about our website?
Yeah.
The calendar is really accurate.
Okay, so follow the calendar. Got it.
But yeah, 18th of Saturday, right? Where the 23rd is not.
Yeah.
Okay, it's always Saturday, I would guess.
Okay.
Jennifer, just for introduction, I checked the MailChimp list. Are you Jennifer Kreiner or Jennifer Morris? Are you?
I'm neither. I'm a lurker. I haven't joined yet.
Well, no, I mean, this is the email list. How'd you even find out about it?
The website.
Oh, okay. Just
Yeah, the Memphis Astronomical Society website.
Yeah, I think the Zoom public.
Oh yeah,
meetings
the
are
Zoom
up
is
there.
pushed to
Oh,
there.
the Zoom, yeah, Zoom's public. But speaking as the treasurer of the club, I'd sure like to have you join.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would like to as well. So
Okay, there's a form on the website.
okay.
We exist because of the dues.
The whopping $25 a year.
Yeah.
I think I can handle that.
Scholarships are available if needed.
And there is a Slack group as well that most everyone here is in, and it's where we chat, we share pictures, we come up with ideas or help solve problems. So that'd be a good thing to get dialed into if you all have questions and don't have to wait for these meetings once a month.
Okay.
It's a very active channel. There's stuff going on there every day, Jennifer.
Every day, yeah.
Oh wow. How do I get involved in that? Is that
Well, the treasurer just told you how.
once I fill out the form, then I get the invite?
I can tell you though, you need to mute it where you are working. If you're not,
but just fill out the form. It'll come to me. I'll send you a PayPal invoice. Then you'll
get an invitation to Slack, and then let us know if you need access to our cloud drive, and we can do that too.
Then you're in the rabbit hole.
Hey, Jennifer, where's that error? Because I was going to fix it while I was here.
And there's actually two different Slack groups, correct? And this is the astrophotography one.
Yeah, there's three. That's right. There's one for the board, but there's a general
There's one for the general membership, one for the board of directors, and one for the astrophotography group.
But this channel is the one that's happening.
Yeah. The board of directors one's close.
That's for sure. Okay. That's
the
great.
error is, I'm trying to remember where I go to get to it.
Memphis Astro.
Right, but it's on a specific page.
Oh, okay. Shoot.
On the site. Okay. Astronomy is looking up.
Oh. All right, that's the homepage.
Yeah.
So it says March 18th.
Mine didn't. Wait. No, mine. mine didn't. What in the world? I don't know.
So
When
who,
I look
who
at it,
fixed
it
it real
says
quick?
something else.
It was wrong. It could have been cached. It was wrong about 3 days ago. Somebody called it to my attention.
Yeah, Burton's is the 18th, and we got a public thing at Bobby Lanier on the 24th.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the ones that have observing at the end, are those the public ones?
Oh, well, MAS observing, it's just that's just what we're doing. Though when it just says MAS observing Burton's, those are at Burton Sugar Farm site, Sugar Farms, our dark sky site. They're always on Saturdays, and those are open to anyone. But we do public in-city observing sessions for people that don't want to drive way out in the country, and that's the ones that's Bob Lanier Farm Park is in Germantown. There's the next one down there on the 31st of Botanic Gardens. Camp Courier is a Boy Scout camp. Pinson Mounds is in Jonesboro. So you almost got to know this stuff to really figure it out.
But at Burton's Farm, you can see the Milky Way. It's kind of
Oh,
nice.
that's neat. Yeah, that's really neat. Okay. I think that gets me started. I can dive down the rabbit hole and
Yeah.
Welcome to the fun.
Yep.
thanks. Yeah,
And
I've only done large objects so far. Large
And Brent,
sky
do you have that? Brent, do you have that Little Rascals meme? Stand by, ready to of the.
Oh, I don't. I know the
Throwing the
one you're
money out the
talking about.
window. So Brent was buying a camera, and he posted a meme of Little Rascals, black and white, of a kid just throwing money and throwing it out the window of his house. That can be this hobby if you're not careful.
Yeah, I've noticed. I've done a lot of digging and a lot of researching and watching YouTube videos and all kinds of things. There's a lot of information out there, and I felt like I wasn't sure where I should put my money, so I just didn't.
Well, you got a great camera to start with.
Well, my thought was I upgraded my DSLR because I went to I photographed the eclipse, the total eclipse a couple of years ago, and my camera overheated really, really badly. And it was a really old camera, so I tried to upgrade to something that might fare a little bit better, but the overheating thing would probably happen regardless because you're pointing it right at the sun. Yeah, it was an experience, and that's what started everything. But
cool. Yeah. Alan,
anyway, thanks, guys.
Certainly.
When you get ready to do the next eclipse, come back. We'll talk. Solar filters. Solar filters.
Yeah. Oh, well, I had a solar filter on it, like a legitimate one, but just sitting out there in the sun like that, it was, and I was tracking manually, and yeah, on a big telephoto, it was a good learning experience and also very stressful.
That makes the 2024 eclipse mandatory.
Yes, absolutely. I'm already plotting like where would be a good place, a good location to find it. So.
I mean, Jonesboro, Arkansas, as close as that is going to be total.
Yeah, there's a mountain pinnacle that I was wondering if that would be a good location or if it's going to be too crowded because everybody's going to think climb the mountain.
You know what you've got to do, and what we learned the last time was you got to know what the path is and check the weather, because no matter where you plan, if it's cloudy, that ain't the place to go. So
we were chasing down a clear sky that day.
Yeah.
We had different plans, and then I looked at the weather and said, guys, it's not going to happen. We have to move, like, we need to move northwest. Let's go
Right.
this way. And we like totally went a different direction. We managed to find clear skies, which is crazy, but yeah, I totally right there
Well,
with you.
that last plan happens about 3 days before the eclipse, which is about as good as weather predictions are.
Yeah. And I didn't know that until day of. So now I know.
Yeah. May I share the screen, Meryl?
Sure.
This is the best one I took for the eclipse at that time.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Pretty cool, Freddie.
That's
Yeah.
really cool.
And this is another attempt. I'm going the other way. And as you see, we had clouds, but everybody blew really hard and the clouds disappeared.
You must have blown the cloud on top of me.
But I don't know. And this is during the whole eclipse.
Where were you guys?
This is Perryville, Missouri,
Okay.
the airport.
Nice.
I was just outside of Nashville in Gallatin, Tennessee.
Yes.
That's where we were headed. And then I was like, nope, we're going to Kentucky. We went to Eddyville instead, just like a random town.
I actually went to high school in Hendersonville, which is next door to Gallatin, and they looked all over Nashville to try to find an astronomer or somebody that'd come be at their big solar eclipse party at the city park and stuff. Couldn't find anybody, so they contacted us, and I said, well, that's a good excuse to go back home and look around.
Well, that's
so
cool.
it was pretty cool.
I did end up with some really good photos. I wasn't really expecting it, but I did plan a lot and like plotted out the stepping, all of that stuff. It was like the first time I'd ever done anything that complex. But it was exciting. It was, like I said, stressful because my camera overheated right before totality, and like I lost the sun completely because I had to dismount the camera and go put it under the AC in the car. Was good times.
That happens.
Yeah, I was like, it is about to be total and I'm over here in the car. I'm gonna miss everything. But I got back in time and I found it just in the nick of time. So
Great.
Okay.
For that type of pictures, you can create beside your filter cardboard piece that will shade on the camera, and
yeah,
that will avoid your overheating.
that's a great idea because I used an umbrella, but in order to avoid, because of where the sun was, I couldn't get it fully over the camera.
Yeah.
Because so something like that would have been a much better solution.
Yeah. I still have mine somewhere.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to.
I use styrofoam.
Oh,
Make
yeah,
a
that's
hole in
smart.
it,
It's insulating.
and then put the filter on, and
Nice.
it worked.
Okay. Save those little like icebox
Yeah.
styrofoam things. Yeah,
I
that's
used
an
two
excellent
Canon
plan.
cameras for that, for the eclipse,
Okay.
and didn't have any problems with overheating because I knew I had taken some solar pictures and I don't know where the heat comes. So
Yeah.
and I
Yeah,
know
I
the
thought I had
effects.
planned, but no, the umbrella did nothing. Umbrella and like a t-shirt wrapped around it didn't do anything. So.
And if you cannot put it in front, you can put it on top of the camera. The same thing. Just
yeah.
Make a hole where your lens will come in and it will cover the camera. And
Yeah,
that
that's
will
a
work.
great suggestion. That's really good to know. So we don't have a panic next time.
Yeah, for 2024, you ask us and we will help you.
Yes. Thanks.
Okay.
Sounds good. This has been really helpful.
That's fabulous. Okay, we've been an hour and 45 minutes while we wrap up. Next month, the number one item on future meetings is NINA. So I'll probably tap some of you to help work on that, share ideas and how it works. And I'm just learning it myself, so I'll be looking forward to hearing from all you guys on that. Great meeting, Jennifer. I'm looking forward to the membership forum, and glad you joined us.
Thanks.
Anything else? I'm going to stop recording here if I can figure